Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about NBA superstar Kevin Durant testing positive for the coronavirus. He was one of four Brooklyn Nets players that reportedly had tested positive for this. This thing might be a little more serious than a lot of people think. This is four people on and four players on one NBA team alone, and it just, just seemed like the other day there were just two total in the NBA that were tested positive. I believe both were on the Utah Jazz. But what I want to get at is, as far as Kevin Durant's chart goes, I don't know the time of birth. I did not find it online, so I had to improvise and do a solar sunrise chart for Kevin Durant. Now, for Kevin Durant, he was born in, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Suitland, Maryland, on September 29th, 1988. So again, I had to improvise and do a solar sunrise chart for him. Now his chart, I could see, the first thing I want to talk about, Kevin Durant, of course, is a Sun in Libra person. So the thing about him is, when you look at him and the basic character, it tells me that he's likely a very strong team player, that he plays, that he's able to collaborate with other players. And I believe when he comes back from the injury, next season, likely with Kyrie Irving, I think they're going to play very well together, and it'll be, I think the team chemistry will be good, and he'll be able to play cohesively. The team itself will wind up playing very, very cohesively together. And you'll have cohesiveness on that team, and Kevin Durant will be a figure very prominently in that. But the thing is, the thing we're looking at, having that energy, and he's also got, Kevin Durant has the moon either in Taurus or Gemini, depending on time of birth. I'm leaning with Taurus because he seems to be more reticent, more quiet than, even the typical Libra. It might be attributed to his ascendant, of which we do not know, because at least I could not find his time of birth online. What it tells me is this energy with the Sun Libra, the basic wants for cooperation, for being able to be a team player, following the team concept. It's really probably, I would say, like, it's really injected strongly in the value system, given that we're talking about a Taurus moon, and this is how he is part of the reason he is making his money. I do believe he has a Taurus moon. That is speculative. Again, we don't know his time. At least I don't know his birth time, and his moon might actually be in Gemini, but I'm going to lean with the Taurus moon, and I'm speaking if he has a Taurus moon. Now, the thing about what I'm looking at, I'm going to talk a little bit about some natal placements that could be an indicator for him being susceptible to maybe some kind of disease or ill health and debilitation in general. And I'm going to talk about some transits that may have played a role in this for Kevin Durant as well. Now, looking at his natal chart, the one thing I see with him, he's got, when I look the natal chart, really the solar sunrise chart, which of course I improvised because I didn't have, again, not to be overly redundant, but I didn't have the time of birth. But in that solar sunrise chart, he has three planets in the third house. You had Neptune is there. You're talking about, Uranus and Saturn is there, and when you're talking, the third house can correspond with breathing, because the third house does correspond with the zodiac sign Gemini. Neptune in the third can be about dissolving or dissipation in terms of your breathing at times, and it could be even as a result of some disease, because Neptune can be associated with diseases. Now, something else I notice, he has the Saturn-Uranus conjunction in Sagittarius, and that tells me maybe perhaps that plays a role as to why he found a very really kind of unusual career, but it was sports related, that he was able to take a career sports related on really a genius level, I would say. And Another thing, when you're talking about, I mean, Kevin Durant's chart, he also has Jupiter in Gemini. And when you're talking about Jupiter in Gemini, even though it's generational, Jupiter, I mean, as I've talked about in previous videos, can be very paradoxical, could be very strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. Some cases that can enlarge and expand breathing issues because Gemini can be associated with that. And the thing about this is being, I believe it was in that ninth house, that's of global communications. And this is something of a global nature, of something that is actually a global, what is considered a pandemic, a global epidemic at this time. Now, also, Kevin Durant has these transits, these Capricorn transits going on in his fourth house. The fourth house is the house of the end of life, but I don't want to sound too foreboding or anything. This is not. I do believe he's going to get out of this. Most of these situations with the coronavirus are not perilous anyway. And as many of you may know, it seems to have a tendency to affect older people more so than younger people. And Kevin Durant, I believe, is 31 years old right now. He was born September 29th, 1988. And the thing about it, too, is, and you're talking about, I mean, and having Saturn in the third house, the Saturn in the third can give some restrictions and limitations in connection with breathing, and also having Uranus in there can be some unusual issues associated with the breathing, as I stated before. But the thing, well, what I'm saying is now. Another thing that I know, so Kevin Durant in this chart has Pisces on the sixth house cusp. Again, the solar sunrise chart for Kevin Durant. Pisces on the sixth house cusp by itself can indicate health issues or debilitations due to some kind of disease or something that is associated with an illness that can't be eradicated. And as many of you may know, the coronavirus currently does not have a vaccine. For at least the best of my knowledge, it doesn't. And Pisces on the 6th can also give very nebulous, unclear, vague, health-related issues at times as well. He also has the North Node in Pisces, and he's got transit Neptune is not far from the North Node in Pisces. And when you're talking about the North Node, when it's involved in transits, it can often be about issues one may have to address and confront. And since we're talking about Neptune being involved, it can be something disease related. And being in Pisces, one that may not at this point in time is a disease that does not have a cure, that there, and as you know, that a disease that can't be eradicated, a debilitation that can't be eradicated. And again, not to be overly redundant, but it does not. The best of my knowledge, the coronavirus currently does not have a vaccine developed to eradicate it. Now, another thing that I noticed too, and sadly, Kevin Durant has a cardinal grand cross configuration in his chart. And the configuration in his chart, it consists of the sun in Libra, and that could be about our vitality, our energy, the physical body to some degree, and also Neptune in Capricorn. And he also has the Mars in Aries, and he has, if you want to consider Chiron part of it, then it's a cardinal grand cross. Or I mean, I would consider it a cardinal grand cross because some people may say it's controversial with Chiron in the mix. Some people may just like to use planets in that kind of configuration, but I would include Chiron. And even though it's a solar sunrise chart, the MC would be involved in it as well. The MC, the sun in Libra, Neptune in Capricorn, and Mars in Aries at this time. Now, as many of you may know, if somebody has a cardinal T-square configuration, and if you have a transit that makes an opposition to that focal point of the T-square configuration, significant events can often be spurred on. It's safe to say, therefore, I would say, if you have a transit in a grand cross, in this case a cardinal grand cross configuration in one's natal chart, and you have a transit that makes a conjunction to one of those proponents in that configuration, significant events can very well transpire, I would say, as well. At this time, Kevin Durant has transit Chiron in Aries, very close proximity to his natal Mars at this time. And you're talking about when you have a transit like that, it can manifest in actual, I mean, you're talking possible physical, well, wounds, suffering to the vitality, to the energy. And the thing about it is, when the coronavirus may cause fevers. Inflammations may be involved with it in some cases. That I'm not sure, but fevers can be involved in it, and Aries governs fevers. You're talking about transit Chiron hitting one's natal Mars, which can cause issues with the vitality and the energy. And then you're talking about being in Aries, issues perhaps connected with the fever, and you have the vitality issues that may be going along with that. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back. And Kevin Durant, this is going off a little bit on the Gemini moon tangent. He has Mercury in the solar sunrise chart. He has Mercury in Libra in his in the first house, and it's retrograde. Now, going back to the reticent thing with Kevin Durant, I do believe, again, I do think his moon is likely in Taurus. This is I would say, looking at this as well, having Mercury retrograde is part of the reason where Kevin Durant really is not overly loquacious. He's not. I mean, he's somebody that really is more taciturn. He really doesn't talk a lot. He's more, again, much more quieter than the typical Sun in Libra. And again, it might be because he's got a different ascendant as well. So I think, looking at the chart, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that's much else left to say regarding this. But again, you're talking about that, going back to the cardinal Grand Cross configuration that Kevin Durant has in his natal chart. The Sun, of course, could be connected with the vitality. You're talking about Neptune being involved in that, and Neptune can be about diseases, and this is and the fact is he's got that in his cardinal Grand Cross configuration. Mars could be about our energy and vitality issues, and if you're talking about Chiron, his Chiron in Cancer is part of that cardinal Grand Cross configuration, and Chiron can sometimes manifest in actual physical wounds, and he's got it by his MC, and that's played a role in him missing some action in his as far as his career goes. So this is something where it's like in the cardinal Grand Cross, a Grand Cross in astrology is often referred to as a cross to bear, which can be about manifest in a lot of tribulation, a lot of adversity, and a lot of obstructions and obstacles that one has to face. That, to me, is part of the reason why I would say what Kevin Durant has done makes it even more monumental, because there's obviously some crisis, some adversity that we don't even know about what Kevin Durant has had to do in get through in his life in order to be able to be where he is and continue to be where he is, and that's being one of the more elite players in the NBA, being in that upper echelon of NBA players. So anyway, and again, I want to talk about that transit Neptune again, hitting, being in that sixth house and being not far from his north node. The Neptune, transit Neptune in the sixth house by itself can sometimes give some kind of, it could be some issues with the physical body that might be nebulous or unclear. It may be due to a disease. And again, we're talking about Pisces. Pisces, health afflictions can be associated with diseases that can't, or debilitations that can't be eradicated. And again, the coronavirus currently, best of my knowledge, does not have a cure. And the thing about it too is, um, you're also looking at the thing that I'm noticing too, in as far as Kevin Durant's chart. Um, it's just the simple fact with him that he is somebody that obviously, again, that's probably gone through, has a lot of tribulation, a lot of adversity he has dealt with, and but I do believe he will bounce back from this. Again, most people that have contracted this have not died as a result of it, at least by as far as percentage goes. But I am a little bit alarmed that four players with the Brooklyn Nets have tested positive for this. So this is something that might be escalating a little bit more at this point in time. And the fact that you have the transit Jupiter not far from transit Pluto, as far as electional astrology goes, can show where where this disease now is really strongly hitting some prominent athletes at this time, because remember that Jupiter can be connected with sports, and Mars I don't think is that far from it, and Mars can be about sports competition, athletics. So, and you're talking about Capricorn energy being flavored, really, that where this is really very depressing, and something that's causing a lot of despondency in being in Capricorn, the sign of restriction and limitation. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.